Coming up on today's show, I've got some final thoughts from the Browns' loss in Seattle. So I'll give my quick thoughts on that and Stefanski and kind of get us moving on to Week 9 against the Arizona Cardinals. But the big item on the agenda this week in the entire NFL world is the NFL trade deadline. So the latest trade buzz and rumors coming from Berea. And quick self-plug, we're going to be live for the NFL trade deadline tomorrow here on the channel. So make sure you join us for it. But let's kind of put Browns, Seahawks behind us. 24-20, of course. The defense crumbled at the end. The offense came up with an ugly third turnover at the end. And the Browns blew a very winnable opportunity with the ball with 2 minutes and 4 seconds to go with the lead. Like, that's the kind of situation you got to put away. You just can't let Seattle come back facing those types of circumstances. Now, everyone wants to blame Kevin Stefanski. Called a pass play on 3rd and 3, 2 minutes and 4 seconds remaining, up 20-17. I do want to add that run or pass, take the clock out of the situation because the clock was going to stop no matter what after this play because of the 2-minute warning. So it's not like Seattle was spared from using a timeout. They always had the 2-minute drill behind them, stopping this clock after this play. So now it comes down to take the clock out of it. Should you run it or should you pass it to get 3 yards? They had run it pretty well all game long, over 100 yards. They had run it well up on that drive as well. And so if you remove the clock situation from it and it just comes down to run or pass with P.J. Walker, it's a bad decision to go pass with P.J. Walker. I think Kevin Stefanski is a good play caller. I don't want to see him give up play calling duties. I just think there are times and moments where he gets a little bit too cutesy with it, thinking they're expecting run, let's go a different direction and let's pass. No, I think Kevin Stefanski has unfortunately yet to learn his lesson of go to the basics. Like, we beg you to run the football, and they do run the ball a lot, but at 3rd and 3, that's the kind of time where you really got to put your foot down and go, we are going to run the ball. So I'm not going to put this entire loss on Kevin Stefanski. No, Kevin Stefanski did not turn it over 3 times. Kevin Stefanski did not play a defense and give up 17 points in the first quarter. No, Kevin Stefanski actually coached his team back from a 17-7 deficit or whatever it was at the end of the first quarter. Kevin Stefanski with a 3rd-string quarterback or 2nd-string, whatever you want to clarify or call P.J. Walker as, got his team in front after trailing big in the first quarter on the road against a 4-2 Seahawks team. If you want to blame someone or you want to blame one thing in particular, blame the turnovers. This team leads the league in turnovers with 17. There are a lot of things that you can point to as a result of bad coaching, but you know what's not bad coaching? A pass going off of Jamal Adams' helmet and falling to Julian Love. That's just a little bit unlucky. Now, maybe you can criticize the play call in that moment, but ultimately, Stefanski is not the one fumbling it. Stefanski is not the one throwing interceptions, right? That's just execution. That goes on the players. So I think finally the Browns kind of had their luck ran out after a missed 41-yard field goal by Jake Moody against the 49ers, a couple of good breaks in terms of calls at the end of the game in the Colts game. Unfortunately, the football gods were going to level things out, and an unlucky break for them because if that ball hits incomplete or that ball is not caught by Julian Love, then the Browns punt it away, and the Seahawks have to drive the entire length of the field, which I like the Browns' defense in those circumstances. But then again, the Browns gave up a lot of yards in the last series, or just quick yards and in succession against Seattle. So who's to say that the Seahawks still would not have scored a touchdown, even if the Browns failed to pick up a first down? So let's kind of put Week 8 behind us, and let's get ready for Week 9 and whatnot. Because Kevin Stefanski spoke to the media today over Zoom, and he said that he would not commit to P.J. Walker as the starter if Deshaun Watson does not play. Said all those decisions will be made later in the week. I think what Stefanski might be saying is, wink, wink, I can't commit to P.J. Walker as the backup because we might be trading for a quarterback tomorrow who's going to replace P.J. Walker as our backup. And honestly, as they should. Look at P.J. Walker's stats. You are lucky to be 2-1 with these numbers. 3 games pretty much. 3 starts more or less. Sub 50% completion percentage. Like, think about that as a coach. Every time your quarterback throws the ball, coin flip as to whether or not it is caught by your own team. Now, that should factor into your decision on a 3rd and 3 when he completes 50% of his passes. But 1 touchdown, 5 interceptions, a fumble as well on Sunday. P.J. Walker is not the man for the backup position moving forward. The Browns need a new backup quarterback. Because if Deshaun Watson comes back against the Cardinals and plays great, awesome, terrific. Who cares about the backup quarterback then? But who's to say Deshaun Watson won't return and then aggravate his shoulder injury and go down again and miss some more time potentially? Like, it is clear that the Browns need a better backup quarterback, because even if Watson does return this Sunday or the following Sunday, they simply cannot rely or trust P.J. Walker to start more games. We have a big enough sample size. 3 games. P.J. Walker is not a good backup quarterback. They might be 2-1, but they're not doing it because of P.J. Walker. Now, sure, give credit to his 2 game-winning drives against the 49ers and the Colts, but we have seen enough of the P.J. Walker experience. Go get a new backup quarterback. So be the NFL GM that you are right now on your couch, and let me know, should the Browns trade for a quarterback? Yes or no? Chime in for me down in the comment section below. Now, a couple more thoughts I have from this game. How about Pierre Strong Jr. making a real case to be the RB1? Unfortunately, Kareem Hunt probably should have got a touch in the 4th quarter, and he let Stefanski know about that, and those two are going to work it out, I'm sure. But Pierre Strong Jr., I just want to give you some airtime right now because you're awesome, dude. I also want to add, the Browns defense, not so awesome the last 2 weeks. Look at the stats compared to the first 6 weeks compared to the last 2 weeks. They go from giving up 12.6 points per game through the first 5 games, 200 yards allowed, only 52 first downs in 5 games. Compared to the last 2 weeks, 31 points per game. The yards has doubled and then some, and they've given up 37 first downs in just 2 games, compared to 52 in 5 games. This defense had a bit of a wake-up call against the Colts. Hey, that happens, right? Even the 85 Bears, the 2000 Ravens, any defense you want is going to have an off Sunday. But 2 in a row, now we've got a bit of a pattern developing. Jim Schwartz has some work to do. Next up on the show, I want to talk about the latest trade buzz and rumors, because there are a lot of them out there going into the NFL trade deadline. So make sure you stick around for this. But before we get into all that good stuff, today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is a daily fantasy sports app where all you have to do is pick more or less for 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. Prize Picks is super simple and user-friendly. I spend 1 to 2 minutes on the app every Sunday and also Monday mornings as well. And here's what I'm rolling with for Monday Night Football. I'm taking less on Josh Jacobs, half a touchdown. The Raiders suck. Don't let their record deceive you. Josh Jacobs has done nothing this year. I like the more, though, for 252.5 yards by Jared Goff. He's having quietly the best season of his NFL career, arguably. I like the more in this one. And then I like the more for Amon-Ra St. Brown. If Jared Goff is going to throw for 275 yards, you better believe that Amon-Ra St. Brown can get more than 79.5 receiving yards. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. The link for that is in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. So let's talk trade rumors, shall we? Because it's all over tomorrow at 4:01 Eastern Time. The Browns, sitting at 4-3, look to be buyers going into the NFL trade deadline. And they could have been 4-3, 0-7, 7-0. With Andrew Berry, they're always going to be buyers. Now, there have been rumors around that the Browns are looking for a running back, a wide receiver. I've heard a lot of buzz about wide receiver, and maybe even offensive line, although Jed Wills has looked a lot better the last few weeks compared to the start of the year. Now, Berry, FYI, made no trades last year before the trade deadline, right? There was some buzz that they might make some move, but ultimately it did not come to fruition. Now, what is Cleveland working with in terms of assets to give up for a trade? No first. That still belongs to Houston for the last year. They have a second. They have a third. They have 2 fifths and 2 sixths and a 7th. So ultimately, the real chips they can bring to the poker table, a second and a third. If you want to go get a big-name guy, those are your bargaining chips. Maybe a 5th, like we saw Kevin Byard go for a 5th, but I think if the Browns want to get a star wide receiver or something like that, it'll cost you a little bit more. But you could probably get a running back for a fifth rounder. Now, Mike Florio, our good friend Mike, over at Pro Football Talk, had this to say recently about Jerry Jeudy potentially getting traded. Per a league source, the Broncos have a good offer in hand for receiver Jerry Jeudy, but the Broncos don't like the offer that has been made for Jeudy to date. I wonder who that good offer could be. Any guesses? Tex, you want to guess? How about the team like the Cleveland Browns that was at one point in on Jerry Jeudy? Rumored to be in on him as far as a year ago now during the trade deadline, and then back in on him at March. So maybe Jerry Jeudy was too rich for Cleveland a year ago during the 2022 trade deadline, too rich for the Browns right before the NFL draft in April. But fast forward to where we are now on Halloween Eve, and Jerry Jeudy this year, when you look at his career stats, has not gotten off to a phenomenal start. Only scored his first touchdown of the season this past Sunday in a win against Kansas City. So what if Jerry Jeudy's trade offer value has gone down a little bit? And maybe that good offer is from the Browns going, we'll give you a second for a guy that's got 336 yards and 1 touchdown this year. You're not going to get a better offer than that. Now, personally, if you're giving up a day 2 draft pick for a player that's only 24 years old, you're 9 times out of 10 going to follow that trade up with a contract extension, right? You don't make that kind of move unless you think that guy is going to be here for the long-ish term. Now, Jerry Jeudy already had his 5th-year option picked up, $12.9 million next year. So maybe the Browns want to see how that year plays out before they extend him. But hand up, I'm just not a big Jerry Jeudy believer. Like, I'm just not one of Jerry Jeudy's biggest fans and someone I think a team should go out and give up a 2nd or 3rd round draft pick for, and then give Jerry Jeudy a big contract extension. When we just looked at his career stats, did anything really pop out to you as like, that's a guy you give up a second and give $19 million a season to? No, I'm not in that boat at all. Now, there are some other wide receiver trade candidates out there. Cortland Sutton from Denver as well. Hunter Renfrow, take it to the bank right now. He's getting traded. Terrace Marshall from the Panthers, he's going to get traded. And then there's DeAndre Hopkins, the other D-Hop. The real D-Hop is currently in Cleveland right now. But DeAndre Hopkins, how about we go on a time machine and go back to the summer when all we could talk about was D-Hop reuniting with Watson in Cleveland. Now, good news for the Browns is DeAndre Hopkins showed against the Falcons in Week 8. He is, in fact, not washed. 4 grabs, 128 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So if Andrew Berry was on the fence about whether or not D-Hop still has a little bit of juice left in the tank, D-Hop showed the entire NFL world, if you're looking for a proven wide receiver 1, I'm still that guy. I think ultimately, here's my prediction for tomorrow. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones gets included in a wide receiver trade, whether it's for DeAndre Hopkins or Jerry Jeudy or someone else, to try to help that trade go through and give some compensation to the other side in lieu of a premium draft pick. And the Browns end up acquiring a new backup quarterback because P.J. Walker is not it. Now, if they do want to go get another backup quarterback, there are some decent options out there. Jacoby Brissett, we'll talk about more in a second. Ryan Tannehill, you're done in Tennessee. Like, Will Levis, 4 touchdowns in his NFL debut. He's their starting quarterback moving forward. Josh Dobbs, if Kyler Murray comes back, I've tossed this out there. Why don't you just reverse the Josh Dobbs trade? Give them their pick back. They got good quarterback play for half a year. The Browns get their pick back and an improved Josh Dobbs with plenty of NFL experience this year. A win-win in my book. Andy Dalton, maybe? The Panthers are rolling with Bryce Young, so maybe Andy Dalton could be available. Cooper Rush, he played well when filling in for Dak. Teddy Bridgewater, you've got Hendon Hooker as a backup, my Tennessee Vol, and Jared Goff is awesome. So I think they could be content with maybe moving on from Bridgewater, who they only added in the middle of the summer. Case Keenum, he played for the Browns, of course, not too long ago, a bit of a reunion potentially. And then Drew Lock, if he's going to ride the bench all year in Seattle, maybe Cleveland feels like, hey, if we need to go to a backup for a few more games, Drew Lock is an improvement over P.J. Walker. My pick, it's your pick. it's Jacoby Brissett, right? He's got the familiarity. He can just walk in and know where everything is and know how things operate, and he does not need a very long adjustment period. And again, at this point, we don't know how much longer Deshaun Watson is going to be out for, but my bigger fear isn't that Deshaun Watson might miss one more game. Who's to say he won't come back and get hurt again? And then you're really screwed. Then the trade deadline is passed, and it's either free agency or PJ Walker or DTR. Go invest and secure some insurance down the line. So in case Watson does miss another game or two, you've got an actual backup quarterback. Now, before we get on out of here, because I've taken up way too much of your time, what moves will the Browns make before Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, the deadline for all NFL trades? Let me know in the comment section. It's time for you to be the host of the Browns Report. By the way, tune into the live Browns Report tomorrow for our NFL trade coverage.